On a summer night in the year 64 AD, the greatest city on earth began to burn. Rome was the center of an empire that stretched across 3 continents. It was a city of marble temples, massive arenas, wealthy palaces, crowded neighborhoods, and nearly 1 million people. For centuries, Rome had survived wars, political assassinations, and foreign invasions. But on this night, Rome faced an enemy it could not fight: fire. At first, it was just a small flame, a simple accident in a crowded marketplace near the Circus Maximus. But within hours, the flames spread through the narrow streets. The buildings of Rome were mostly made of wood. The streets were packed together. The wind carried the fire from one neighborhood to another. Soon, the sky above Rome turned red. People ran through the streets carrying whatever they could save. Parents searched desperately for their children. Families abandoned their homes with only the clothes on their backs. For 6 terrifying days and 7 endless nights, the fire consumed the city. When it finally stopped, much of Rome was gone. Ancient historians wrote that entire districts had disappeared. Thousands were homeless. And as the smoke cleared, one question spread throughout the empire: who started the fire? Many Romans believed they already knew the answer. They blamed the emperor himself. Nero, the young ruler of Rome, a man who would become one of the most infamous figures in human history. The emperor who supposedly burned Rome. But almost 2,000 years later, historians are still asking, did Nero really set Rome on fire? Or did history turn him into a monster he never truly was? Nero became emperor of Rome when he was only 17 years old. At first, many Romans were hopeful. He was young, he was intelligent, and unlike some previous rulers, he seemed willing to listen to advice. But Nero was not a typical Roman emperor. Most emperors wanted to be remembered as great generals, conquerors, builders. Nero wanted something different. He wanted to be admired as an artist. He loved music. He loved theater. He enjoyed performing in front of audiences. To many Roman elites, this was shocking. A Roman emperor was supposed to command armies. He was supposed to demonstrate strength, not stand on stage and sing. But Nero did not care. He believed he was a genius. He believed the world should appreciate his talents. And this personality would eventually help create the legend around him. Because when Rome burned, many people were already ready to believe the worst. According to later Roman writers, the story of Nero during the fire was horrifying. Some claimed that Nero watched Rome burn from a palace balcony. Some even said that he played a musical instrument while the city was destroyed. The image became legendary. The emperor watching his own people suffer while enjoying the destruction. But there is a problem. There is no direct evidence that this happened. The famous image of Nero playing music while Rome burned may have been created by his enemies decades later. So where did the accusations come from? To understand that, we need to look at the ancient historians who recorded the event. One of the most important sources is Tacitus. Tacitus was a Roman historian who lived after Nero's reign. He wrote that rumors blamed Nero for the fire. Why? Because many people suspected the emperor wanted to rebuild Rome in his own vision. After the disaster, Nero created a massive new palace complex called the Domus Aurea, the Golden House. It was filled with incredible luxury, huge gardens, artificial lakes, beautiful artwork. To his critics, it looked suspicious. They believed Nero had allowed Rome to burn so he could create a more impressive city. Another historian, Suetonius, also described Nero negatively. He claimed Nero had dreamed of seeing Rome destroyed. But historians today are careful. Ancient writers were not modern journalists. They often wrote with political goals. They wanted to explain whether a ruler was good or evil. And Nero already had many enemies. So the question remains, was there enough evidence to prove he started the fire? The answer is complicated. Many modern historians believe Nero probably did not start the Great Fire. There are several reasons. First, according to ancient sources, Nero was not even in Rome when the fire began. He was staying at his seaside residence in Antium. When he heard the news, he reportedly returned to Rome and organized relief efforts. Second, the fire itself was not unusual. Ancient Rome suffered from frequent fires. The city was overcrowded, buildings were unstable, cooking fires were everywhere. A massive accident was completely possible. Third, if Nero had intentionally destroyed Rome, it would have been an extremely dangerous decision. The emperor depended on the support of the people and the military. Creating a disaster that killed thousands of citizens could easily lead to rebellion. So why did the accusation survive? Because after a disaster, people often need someone to blame, and Nero needed someone else to blame too. After the fire, rumors continued to spread. The emperor needed a solution. He needed an enemy. And he found one group that was already unpopular, a small religious movement called Christianity. At this time, Christianity was still young. Jesus had been executed only a few decades earlier. His followers were a tiny minority inside the Roman Empire. Most Romans knew very little about them. They did not worship Roman gods. They refused to treat the emperor as divine. They gathered privately, and many Romans viewed them with suspicion. To the Roman government, refusing emperor worship was not just a religious disagreement. It could be seen as an act of rebellion. So when Nero needed someone to accuse, Christians became the perfect target. The Roman historian Tacitus described what happened next. Nero blamed Christians for the fire. A wave of persecution followed. Many Christians were arrested. Some were executed. Some were killed in public spectacles. For the early Christian community, this became one of the first major moments of suffering under the Roman Empire. And this is where the story connects to one of the most mysterious books in the Bible, the Book of Revelation. The Book of Revelation is one of the most symbolic and mysterious texts in Christianity. It describes visions of the end times. It speaks about a great struggle between good and evil. And one of its most famous figures is the beast. The beast represents a powerful enemy who opposes God and persecutes believers. For centuries, many readers have wondered, who was this beast? And what does the famous number 666 mean? One fascinating theory connects it to Nero. The reason comes from an ancient system called gematria. In the ancient world, letters often had numerical values. Names could be converted into numbers. The name Nero Caesar, when written in Hebrew letters, can produce the number 666. Because of this, some historians and biblical scholars believe that the beast in Revelation was a hidden reference to Nero, not a monster from the future, but a real emperor who lived in the author's own time, a ruler who represented violence, oppression, and the persecution of believers. However, this interpretation is still debated. Not everyone agrees. Some believe the number represents other Roman emperors. Others believe it is a broader symbol of evil political power throughout history. So Revelation may not simply be about one man. It may be about a pattern, a warning about what happens when human beings give unlimited power to rulers. Nero's story did not end with the fire. After years of political conflicts, executions, and growing opposition, his empire began to collapse. Military leaders rebelled. The Roman Senate turned against him. The emperor, who once controlled the most powerful empire in the world, suddenly became a fugitive. In the year 68 AD, Nero escaped Rome. According to tradition, as enemies approached, he took his own life. His final words were reportedly, "What an artist dies in me." Even at the end, Nero saw himself not as a failed ruler, but as an unrecognized genius. After his death, his reputation only became darker. To many Romans, he became the symbol of tyranny. To early Christians, he became one of the first great persecutors of their faith. And over time, the stories around him grew. The emperor who loved theater became the emperor who watched his city burn. The ruler who faced political enemies became a symbol of ultimate evil. The man Nero became almost disappeared beneath the legend. So, did Nero really burn Rome? The honest answer is, we do not know. The evidence against him is strong enough to create suspicion. but not strong enough to prove his guilt. History may never give us a final answer, but perhaps the most fascinating part of the story is not whether Nero started the fire. It is how a person becomes a monster in the memory of humanity. Sometimes, history remembers what people did, but sometimes, history remembers what people believed they did. Nero may have been a cruel ruler. He may have been selfish, arrogant, and dangerous. But the story of the burning of Rome reminds us that truth is often more complicated than legends. A single fire destroyed a city, but the rumors that followed created something even more powerful. A story that survived for nearly 2,000 years. A story about power, a story about fear, a story about how, when civilizations face disaster, they search for someone to blame. And sometimes, the person standing in the flames becomes the villain forever. This is the story of Nero, the man who burned Rome. Or perhaps, the man history decided had burned Rome.